I could never swap out my physical books for just pure reading ebooks. Hi, I'm Fabie, nice to meet you, or nice to welcome you back to a new video of mine. And today I want to talk about how I was able to finally read more in my second semester of university, because in the first semester I was just overwhelmed with the new structure and everything that came with university. So I was able to finally read 8 to 9 books in February. And this is actually a lot. I think it's even for my middle school self, which was really into reading, it's a lot. And compared to other booktubers, it's not that much because they read up to, I think, 12 or even more books in a month. But for me, as a full-time uni student, this is actually really a lot. So the first thing was, what happened is that it turned winter and I was not able to ride my bike anymore to university because it was just so cold. I mean, there are a lot of Dutch people, I don't understand, they still commute via bike, but for me, with a heavy backpack on my back, because I do not only have my uni stuff in it, but also my gym clothes, it was really hard to not break out into a sweat into my 50-minute bike drive, and I really hate sweating with my whole heart. So I took the bus instead. If there was not a strike going on, because there are apparently a lot of strikes in the Netherlands, and then I would read when I would wait at the bus station and in the bus. And also sometimes as I was walking to my class, I would still glance down into my book and read. So the second thing I did was that I tried to go to bed half an hour earlier than I would normally, which also helped me to be able to then sleep faster, because normally I would just scroll mindlessly on my smartphone, which is also not good for your eyes because it's a lot of blue light. So I tried to get in half an hour or 50 minutes of reading before I would actually fall asleep or try to fall asleep. And back when I was in middle school, I was always afraid to do that because I'm not a person who gets sleepy or tired while reading. If you do that, maybe that's also perfect for you to read something and not scroll on your phone. So I always was afraid to not being able to stop when I started reading. But I think, and I feel like if I set myself a timer for half an hour and then the timer goes off and I finish the chapter, then it is easier to lay my book down than it would be if I would be mindlessly scrolling on TikTok, because it's just so addicting. But I think reading, because you have to be engaged the whole time, it is actually easier to stop than to stop scrolling on Instagram or TikTok. Well, the 2.5 thing would be that I also tried waking up half an hour earlier, and it works. It actually works. I also wanted to shift kind of my schedule to waking up earlier, and I'm a morning person, you may not be, and it's not the first thing that works for you because you get tired, and if you're already tired and then try to read, it could also be really hard. But for me, it actually worked to have my phone, put it down after the alarm went off, and then grab my book and read something first thing in the morning. So the third thing would be that I started reading in between my lectures, because I usually have 2 lectures in a day, and then I have 1 hour 15 in between those lectures. And if I do not have someone I talk to, I mean, I'm also not a really social person, I'm more introverted, so I usually end up sitting in the next lecture room and eating my lunch and then waiting for the lecture to start. And without normally I would scroll on my phone, but now I try to read in between lectures because it's just a perfect way to calm down, to have something that has nothing to do with university, that is not an academic text that you're reading right now. So it really helps me to calm down, to relax, and then have a fresh mind when starting the lecture. So the fourth thing is that I got an ebook. I mean, I had it before, but it was back in Germany, and then someone was really nice, a friend of mine, brought it here, and now I can read ebooks. I was not really into ebooks when I was back at home because my book would always somehow fit into my backpack for school, because I did not have to carry my gym clothes in the same backpack, and I do not want to drag 2 bags around the whole uni, so I always stuff it into one. But then my book would not fit, or it would fit and it could be damaged, and that's the last thing that I want happening to one of my books. I probably think that it's also the last thing that you want. So I took my ebook with me, and I would do it like I would read one book here, and then I would also start a physical copy here, which I would then read half an hour after waking up, half an hour before going to sleep. So I would have both, because I could never swap out my physical books for just pure reading ebooks, because it's just something different, feeling the pages and having a real book and the weight of a real book in your hands than it is with an ebook. But this, it is so small, it is so thin, there's no excuse you would not get it into your backpack to take it with you. Then the fifth thing is actually trying to cut down on screen time. There was one time when I started noticing that there were booktubers that tried to swap out their screen time with reading time. And it always bugged me that my screen time was like 8 to 10 hours. And I was really shocked when I realized that it was actually, but it came from mindlessly scrolling through Instagram, through TikTok, and not like doing anything else beside that, and not reading definitely. And I just felt like it would be more satisfying and it would make me more happy if I would have spent the time reading than scrolling on TikTok, watching videos that I forget about in the next minute again. So that is also what I tell myself when I'm opening TikTok, when I'm opening Instagram. Is that really what I want to do right now? Or would I be happier if I would just read something right now? And most of the times, actually, it is I would be happier if I would read something. So I go and read something. I also have a time on my TikTok and my Instagram, which also helps me to watch out for my screen time. And I actually try to keep it to 4.5 hours now, which is pretty hard coming from 8 hours plus, but I'm getting like closer to it as I started to also implement timers that then block the app completely, and I could not access it for until the next day. The sixth thing is that I started reading when I had like a really bad reading slump when I got to university. So the only thing I wanted to do after uni was just mindlessly scroll, come down, come back, because I'm also not a person that enjoys large social gatherings. And that was like basically the first semester of university with so much to do, so many people to meet, and this was the only thing that I wanted to do. So it was a really bad reading slump because I could not get myself back into reading, because I completely stopped reading when I had to do my A-levels in high school, because there was so much studying going on that I really did not have any spare time to then also engage in reading, because it seemed too much of a hassle for me. It seemed too much of having to concentrate again when I already spent the whole day concentrating on mathematics or English. So yeah, it was really hard getting back into reading, but what helped me was to start reading off with a book that I knew I enjoyed in my teens. And I actually read it in Dutch because I'm also trying to study Dutch at the moment. So it was not reading the whole story again, rereading the book, because there's also like the problem, maybe you were not able to connect to the character as you did in your teens. So reading it maybe in another language, then also kind of learning the language will also help because it's more interesting. What also helped, the other thing, was that I had a series that I started in my teens and then I kind of forgot about it, but I knew I liked it very much, and there were a lot of sequels available at the moment, so I started reading those after I read like a summary of what happened in the books before, because it was like a long time since I read them. But that's also how I kind of got into reading, because I already knew the world, so it was not like, okay, there is a new world building going on, because I also enjoy like reading fantasy, and if you enjoy reading fantasy and you can really get back into a series that you knew you also enjoyed before you went into the reading slump, this is just a really good thing to do, because you do not have to get into a new world. You kind of already know your way around the universe, how things work and how the world is just built. So the seventh thing that I did was I finally stopped worrying about not finishing a book. I mean, the main reason why I read is because I enjoy reading. So why would I spend my time on a book that I do not enjoy at all in my free time? And also, I don't know, in middle school, I used to really drag myself through books because I just wanted to finish these books. But now that I started and I'm working on actually stopping books if I do not enjoy them at all. I mean, if there are just a few chapters in between, if people say, well, the middle is kind of not that good, but the beginning and the end are really good, then I will continue reading the book. But if you really dislike the book that you're reading right now, it doesn't make any sense for you to carry on. Except if it's like a school book or a uni book, then you should probably read it. But if it's for your own fun, if it's for your free time, why would you carry on? I know it's hard. If you've never not finished a book, it's hard to start, because for me it always felt like it, because I had to fight against my perfectionism of finishing each book, and it gets better. That's all I can say. It gets better, and then you actually just read the books that you want to read and not read the books and drag yourself through books that you do not like at all. So the last thing, the 8th thing, is I was really afraid after I got out of my reading slump that I would fall back into one. So I started reading books simultaneously. I also talked about it when I was talking about my ebook, that I would read one book on my ebook and then have a physical copy next to my bed and read it when I get home. So this also kind of helped me if I did enjoy one of the books and the other one not that much, but still around something. Yeah. So this also helps if you like one book more than the other, maybe, to not be stuck with one book. I mean, even if you want to finish the book, it might not be your mood right now. If you normally read fantasy, for example, and then you started a romance book and you like romance, but it's not like the best thing ever, maybe, I don't know, then you can just switch the books and prevent a reading slump and actually get through both books. I mean, sometimes it feels like it's going on forever until you finish a book, but if the story is really good, then you do not want the book to end, right? So for me, it really helped to have 2 books and not just one, especially. I'm also trying to read a book at the moment that is called 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think. I think it is called. I'm gonna put it here. And it is really hard to just sit there and read all the 101 essays in one sitting, or even in multiple sittings, and not have anything else reading besides it, because some books are just better to read one essay, for example, at a time, or maybe you have a book that is composite of short stories, and then it's easier to just read one short story and then get back to the book, to a longer story that you also reading at the moment. So I hope you enjoyed my tips, and maybe some of the tips can help you because you did not find them or heard of them before. So please let me know if some of the tips helped, and enjoy reading. Bye!